So I heard on the news that the founder of Antifa was arrested recently, and I thought the founder of Antifa was Woody Guthrie. I hope nobody's offended. I hope everybody out there is anti-fascist, but... So I wanted to ask you guys, you know, one of the things that is not much discussed is tone. And you guys are tone masters. You're a...
Hair tone?
Yeah. Muscles.
Skin tone. No, tone of voice, tone of guitar.
Right.
And when you're dealing with these very, very difficult subjects, like Sunday, Bloody Sunday, I mean, you're singing about a tragedy, a horrible, tragic situation. But you can only do that if you do it with a tone of love and kindness and generosity. I think generosity is the hallmark of an artist, and you all are overwhelmed with generosity.
And Anna, by the way, Anna Guthrie, just to say that was a very generous way to bring us on stage, and felt the blessing of that. So thank you.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts, Edge, on tone and guitar tone? I noticed you had the most beautiful tone on that Epiphone. And
I think you're right. I mean, I think tone plays such a large part in not just the music, but the way of explaining something. And I think what we learned early on is that just complaining, just giving out about something is not enough. You know, our favorite protest songs always had a sense of vision, something to aim for. And if you even think about Woody Guthrie's most famous song, "This Land Is Your Land, Our Land," I mean, it's in some ways you might go, well, that's just not true. But it was his vision for how it could be. He was describing something, an ideal that everyone could get behind. And I think that's the thing, is it's not like you don't talk about the darkness, you try and make the light brighter in some way.
Yeah.
I love the line, I saw a sign that said no trespassing, but then I looked on the other side of the sign, it didn't say nothing.
Anything. Yeah,
you know?
So good.
Well,
with Sunday, Bloody Sunday, that actually started out as a bit of a heart cry because of this cycle of violence that we were just seeing up the north. So when I first picked up the guitar and tried to get something going, that was what I was feeding off. But when Bono came and listened to it, he was like, yeah, this has got to be approached in a different way. And it was his insight and beautiful lyrics that didn't hit it head on. It was like, we are going to talk about community and unity, and we're going to talk about what might be, rather than the frustration and anguish that we're all feeling right now. And you know, it is that will ultimately, I think, bring us forward. Is it describing where you can see things going and not dwelling on where we're at right now. Because if you dwell on where we're at right now, you just get so depressed.
Well, while Edge was working on those arpeggiations and determined to find a reason for you two to exist in the real world as opposed to the imaginary one that we'd created, I was on honeymoon in Jamaica trying to explain to my new wife why the next U2 album is going to be called War. And I hear, and I felt it tonight, and it's a immodest thing to say, but I heard the Bob Marley in that song in Sunday Bloody Sunday. I heard it tonight, and sometimes I heard it, and if I start singing ever in a Jamaican accent, just slap me. But it could happen, man, anytime, right? But yeah, you can't sit down and write a song. You can about a subject. You can occupy a feeling. This is where tone comes into it. It's the songs in the sound. Maybe we just weren't expert enough songwriters, but we'd sort of, and this often happens, is the band's music, and often it's Edge's guitar playing or whatever. It kind of tells me as a singer what to be singing about. But in this case, it was Edge telling me what to be singing about. Like, it's a song called Sunday, Bloody Sunday. What about that? And I had to find our way, a unique way into it, so.
That's why I love being in a band.
Your 1998 Waterfront Hall show, The Guardian called the gig that helped end the Troubles. And this is an extraordinary thing. In 1987, about, David Bowie had a concert at the Berlin Wall, and they turned the speakers around to go into East Berlin, and people came from all over East Berlin, and they were ordered. The gendarmes were ordered in to break them up, and Putin to this day thinks that was a CIA. That concert was a CIA plot to destroy the Soviet Union, because a week later Reagan came and said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall."
Wow.
So music has...
I just love the idea of Ronald Reagan calling David Bowie. So, David, would you mind? We're thinking about ending the Soviet Union, and could you make something kind of, heroic about? Oh, like try something, make it heroic. Yeah, I suppose I could really. We could all be heroes, Ron.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, so I had a housekeeper for 30 years who had 4 members of her family disappeared in El Salvador. And can we shift on into Victor Hara and talk about a songwriter who paid the price for his convictions? I know is he important to you? Is Victor Hara important to you?
I listened to him today. Hold on. You know why? Because I thought you might ask.
Yeah.
And I well, first of all, you talk about tone. I mean, I don't. As much as you might think otherwise from Vertigo, I don't speak Spanish very well. And but so today I was listening to Manifesto, and it's an amazing. His tone is everything. Just simply the tremolo, the tenor, Anyway, I asked Perplexity to translate, and it goes. And I said, "What's the translation of that?" I went, "Ooh, I'll tell you." And this is the Victor Jara's Manifesto. I don't sing just for singing, or because I have a nice voice. I sing because the guitar has a sense and a cause. It is an earthly heart and little dove's wings. It's like holy water, it blesses glories and sorrows. And then it goes, this is the bit that I think that my guitar is not for the rich or something like that. My song is from scaffoldings to reach the stars. Singing has a sense when it beats in the veins of the one who will die singing, the real truths. And yeah, it's just, it's so honest. My guitar, it's a worker. He was working for it. And I suppose our prayer as a band was always, to be useful. And coming back from that trip in El Salvador, which was, some people are going to now who'd really not want to go to El Salvador, apparently. There's a very dodgy travel agent. I think they're called ICE, but it's kind of not funny. But in those days, there were people going missing, and we met their mothers. And later, in Chile, when we played in Chile, I forget, in 1998 or something, we were playing live on TV. We said we'll play Chile, but the ticket prices would be too high, so can we play live on TV? And they foolishly agreed, the national television. And it went out live. And we brought the mothers, snuck the mothers under the stage. They came out, these mothers, with pictures of their disappeared sons and daughters. They came out live in the stadium, on stage. And I, in a very unthinking Irish way, started to speak to General Pinochet through the television set, and said to him, if I can recall, if God, we are not your judge, God will be your judge, but tell these women where are the bones of their children. At least tell these women where are the bones of the children.
Ouch.
And interestingly, some of the crowd started booing. And then a very unusual thing happened. All the security left. And our manager came and said, I think we're in a bit of trouble. He said, the security have gone. I said, well, isn't that a good sign? No. And it was a moment in our band's life, because I think it was a month later, when Pinochet was to move from being the chairman of the government, he wanted a Senate seat for life. And a month later, the women and others came into the Senate building in Santiago with the pictures and said they were inspired by the U2 show. And so that's a little thing can have ramifications. And lest anyone say, now Bono thinks he changed the regime in Pinochet's regime, it was The Edge.
You know, in the glass bead game, Siddhartha, they talk about when a certain chord was hit in the court, then the ruler would resign. Back in the good old days in India, I guess, you know, that there were tonalities that would be hit that would be such a indicator of the mood of the populace that the leader would just disappear.
I believe music can actually change the temperature of the room, can change the mood of a country, and we've seen it. I mean, we've seen it in the 60s in America particularly. I mean, it really did change the course of history. So there's a reason why politicians are afraid of music and afraid of musicians.
Or talk show hosts.
You know,
you should get into that, T Bone. This is working.
I'll look into it.
I'll see you in jail.
So, you know, the scientists, the astrophysicists say that all the things that we see in the world are notes of the strings beating beneath them. That's string theory. That all of this, all of you, all of us, everything we see is actually made of music. And I think these are the stakes that musicians are playing for. And I think really, I hate to say this, but I feel like it's up to us at this point. I don't feel like the politicians are going to solve anything. They're disgraced. The religious people are disgraced. You know, I don't see anybody fighting for humanity other than in the art.
But music has a role outside of words, outside of melody, the language of the Spirit. And we sing, and I genuinely haven't microdosed. We sing towards God, towards the divinity in our audience, the divinity in the room, in even the divinity of our reviewers, which is really hard. No. We have to rise above argument and politics. I think in terms of protest songs, what happened to U2 is the subject that we were protesting about more than any other turned out to be ourselves and the hypocrisy of the human heart, and realizing that we couldn't really point the finger. And I remember this old preacher who said, Chris Rowe, beautiful man, we learned so much from. When you point the finger, just remember there's 3 fingers pointing back at you. And so there is a moment to engage, and it will have to happen in this generation again, to be specific. And, Woody Guthrie had printed on his guitar, this guitar kills fascists. And we don't want to kill any fascists tonight, but we want to kill fascism. And perhaps the way that we do that is name it sometimes. So I'm arguing against myself here for a second, but one of the best ways is humor. And I do think there's a verse of scripture, mock the devil and he will flee from thee. So I think I'm just all for late night hosts. And the fascists are actually, I'm very vain, but got to change my jacket and everything. But the Goebbels and who was it who designed the uniform for the Nazis? Well, whoever it was, these people they don't like to be laughed at. They want you to fear them, and violence is their language, but they really don't like to be laughed at. And I think
because that's the antidote to fear, and fear is the thing that they weaponize against every one of us. And when you're afraid of other people, you will do terrible things. So fear is the thing that we have to resist at all costs.
Amen. Amen. Yep.
Long live Colbert.
Yes, exactly.
He's some dude. And a Catholic. And we all know God is a Catholic. Frank Sinatra.
Earlier on, I was like Bono, inspired to turn to AI. Trying to prep for tonight, I asked AI what the Edge from U2 might say if he was asked if he remembers the first time he met T Bone Burnett. And this is what it came up with, okay? I do, yeah. It was sometime in the early 80s, and I remember being struck by how calm and thoughtful he was compared to the manic energy of the scene around us. That'll be Bono, I think. He had this kind of quiet authority, and even though he was already so respected, he carried himself with no ego at all. The way he talked about music, he knew he was listening to layers most people never paid attention to. It wasn't a long time, a long interaction, but it left a big impression. Like, here's someone I'd want to spend a lot of time with in a studio. I go,
Not bad.
not bad.
Does it mention The Other Side? An
then
incredible album released. Honestly, I had a copy of Truth Decay, because it came out when Boy was out.
Yeah.
And right up to The Other Side, your best album, probably.
We've been fans of T-Bone's since that time.
Thank you. We're supposed to get better as we get older. And I gotta say, you guys started out just fucking great. And you're getting better, so thank you for that.
Well,
Thank you. Thank you for not caving. Thank you for, you have been under an avalanche of criticism for decades for just lunacy.
Mostly our family.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay, but you've bbeen steadfast, and you've been filled with faith and filled with honesty, and I'm deeply grateful to you for holding up your end. A lot of people don't, and most bands break up. I mean, most bands are for when you're 20 or 22. It's very difficult to get into your 40s or 50s, and it's a marriage, and there's some point, I guess, in a marriage where you have to say, well, this is how this person is, and so I accept this person as this. But you all have done that in your marriages, and your life, and your band, and it's a beautiful thing. I'm grateful to you.
Wow. Thank you for that. Well, as you know, Larry and Adam wanted to be here tonight, but they only like you. We love you.
Yes. Not fair.
That's there goes the marriage. They are in mighty form, and Larry has been just playing at his absolute best. This is the best ever. From his drumming, it's incredible, and Adam is great. I don't know if am I allowed to do tangent for a second, but one of the great moments of my life happened, a musical life, standing beside Adam Clayton. He got a text in, and I just saw it, and I saw J.J. Burnell, and I went, that's the bass player from the Stranglers. I remember when they wouldn't give us a dressing room, and we had to rob them.
We opened for the Stranglers.
We opened this before we had a record deal. The Stranglers, amazing band,
in a place half the size of this.
Amazing punk band, and I went up to J.J. Burnell with the U2 "Can Happen to Anyone" badge, and I said, because he was the coolest bass player next to Paul Simonon, and of the Clash, and I said, would you wear this? And he was like, no. Why would I? I don't know who you are. So we robbed his dressing room anyway. And I thought, there was bad blood. And so when I saw the text coming in, I thought, do you know J.J. Burnell? Because he's a very cool guy. And Adam said, yes. Yeah, I do. Yeah, we often see each other.
Bass players. It's a whole thing.
It's like Bass Players Anonymous. And I was like, oh. And I said, do you mind me? Would you share me the text? And the text was this. Adam, so excited to see you on the BBC's Gardener's World tonight. Now, we were just backstage in the dressing room here. I saw a hole in the wall where Sid Vicious had punched. I actually took a photograph of it. And I was actually, in the end, I thought, no, it is a much more punk thing to do, is to be interested in gardening and flowers, and more importantly, being alive.
Yes,
and
being alive.
And in the case of Adam, still in the same band. We're very grateful to our first manager. Gardener's World, though.
Yes, come on, that's so cool.
BBC, and he's on it. You can go online. Adam Clayton is on BBC's Gardener's World. Sorry, back to Woody Guthrie.
Yeah, when did you first hear Woody Guthrie?
Boomtown Rats, I think, took their name from I think from his autobiography. From Bound for Glory, had a go at reading that. But Woody Guthrie and Bob Dylan, Song for Woody, all those liner notes. I had to hold myself back tonight from "This train is bound for glory." This train, but Johnny Cash. This train is bound for glory. I wanted to do Bob.
A better Cash than Bob, though.
Thank you. I know, but Bob Dylan really did bring us to the place where the song was an instrument to open another world, and the world of Woody Guthrie, I probably wouldn't have entered, personally speaking, without Bob Dylan. He's opened up so many doors for our band, for us. I can't believe that we live in the same world as Bob Dylan, that he's still with us. The courage to live, the courage to wink at the world as well as snarl at it. There's a lot to love about Bob Dylan. I can't believe we live in a world where Paul McCartney is going to play tomorrow night in Tulsa. The Beatles. And what is the name of the author we were trying to talk? There's a book called Turn On, Tune In. It's a big volume on the Beatles. Yeah, say his name? Martin Lewison. Thank you. Reading the opening of that is, I think, Ringo is being born, and the Blitz, and in the war, and Hayden War found an antidote in Love and Peace, and Love and Peace would not have happened, I don't think, in the way that it happened, without the Beatles, without Bob Dylan, the feminizing of culture away from that male hegemony of hate and war. You have these long-haired people with a sense of humor, because all these other people don't have any sense of humor. And fuck them. And they're boring. See Putin been talking to the guy from Belarus by a fireside. But yes, our version of history, yes. Like, do you ever laugh?
No joy.
Anyway,
no joy.
The Beatles, Bob Dylan, powerful women, Aretha Franklin, Opening Our Souls, Marvin Gaye. Anyway, these are all. This was a culture. It was a protest culture, and although doesn't Bob call protest songs topical? I think that's funny. The history of the topical song.
So Martin King Jr., Dr.
Yes.
Martin King Jr., whose the song Pride is about, I guess. What do you think about his idea that the arc of, what was his formulation?
The moral arc of the universe bends towards justice, except it doesn't. It has to be bent toward justice.
That's
Yes.
That's what we all have to do. That's our job.
That's the only thing I would disagree with the great Dr. King about. I don't think the moral arc of history bends towards justice. Yeah, and don't think it does. And I think the last years of freedom, your life, our life, has been the most extraordinary time. It's not good enough. There's so much more to be done. This country, America, which we look to, America feels, I've said this before, but it's the greatest song still yet to be written. And the poetry in it is there, but it's still being written, is I suppose what I mean. And I think that's if we can be any way encouraging of you in your extraordinary country, just that it continues to be extraordinary, but don't imagine it will continue on its own, that it is naturally, if you fell asleep, you would wake up in 20 years and the world would be fairer or freer. It won't.
There's a great story by who's remember the guy that went up the mountain and fell asleep for all those years? Who was that?
Don Quixote. Rip Van Winkle.
Oh, Rip Van Winkle, that's it. So Rip Van Winkle went to Woodstock actually. And the night before he went up the mountain, he stayed at the King George Inn, in Woodstock. And then he went up the mountain and fell asleep or whatever. They call it the Sleepy Hollow or something up there. And then 3 years later or whenever it was, he came back and it was the George Washington Inn. And he went, what happened, And he had slept through a revolution, And that's something we all can't afford to do now. We can't afford to sleep through this revolution.
We want to be useful. We can't write songs that by rote. We can't take an order. Your first question about what the mothers that disappeared, that came out, Edge made it musical, but I remember writing the start of the mothers of the disappeared on my mother-in-law's Spanish guitar. And it came out, and songs come out. We can't write them to order. We had a song that we were going to share tonight to play, but I think without Adam and Larry we couldn't. But it's an example of how a song comes about, or if you call it a protest song.
It's not finished.
I actually might have it.
But Bono's got some words.
This is, there was an awful moment. I don't know if anyone ever saw this film called No Other Land. I think it did very well, got an Oscar. Anyway, this earlier, we're trying to get this Israeli and Palestinian filmmaker to come to Cain, to the film festival. They made this film. And so in July, one of the people who worked on the film, this man called Auda Hathalim, and he was killed in the most brutal way by just out of control settler and in the South Hebron Hills. And I heard his story, and he left behind his daughters, and the director of the film said at his passing, he said, they're trying to erase us, they're trying to wipe us off the face of the earth, one life at a time. So I said to Edge, this one life at a time thing, it's so powerful because you can make or break the world one life at a time. So I thought it would be an interesting thing, and wrote it that week. And we were envious because, Neil Young, I think he wrote Ohio about the Kent State University, put it out. Crosby, Stills were a big deal, and they put it out that week. We didn't, because we didn't get it finished. But I have a version of it. This is embarrassing. No, it goes like this. It goes, one father shot, 3 daughters crying. If there's no law, is there no crime? If there's no hope, what's there to rhyme? History is written, one life at a time. Look around. What you see depends on where you stand. How you fall depends on where you land. What you know is more than you've been told. What you're feeling shapes all you see. Lose the map and find the territory. What you forget might set your spirit free. You say you're going to save the world. Well, how are you going to get that right? You say you're going to save the world tonight. You say you're going to save the world, and perfect love drives out all fear. Well, how's that going to happen here? One life at a time. One life at a time. Look around. Who stole Abraham? Who stole his words? Stole the colors from the flowers, stole the song from the birds. Who stole Muhammad? Locked him in a cage, made God a mirror of our own rage. Don't shoot my father, his 3 daughters are crying. Innocent flees the scene of the crime. We can make or break the world, one life at a time. So, is that okay? Your music, Edge's music is a very special thing, and we live beside each other, so I can just ring him and just say, "What do you think of this idea?" And he goes, "Well, I have something here, and I want to play you this, or let me try that." It is the most amazing thing to be sitting beside a person who needs to say so little, and says a lot by it.
Likewise.
Anyway, that was for Auda Hathaleen. May you rest in peace.
So, should we stop? I don't know. Yeah?
Probably.
Okay, well, I have one last question to ask you, if you would indulge me. Songs of Surrender. This you broke everything down. You broke you two down to really just you got the core of what it was about, and I wonder what you learned from doing that about the songs you've been writing for all these years. Did you? I'm working with 5 people now, all over 80 years old. Willie Nelson, Bob Dylan, Ringo Starr, Meredith Monk, and Twyla Tharp. And they're all
amazing.
They're absolutely killing it. Every one of them is killing it. And they're reinventing themselves. It's interesting. We did 6 songs with Bob of his classic songs like Blowin' in the Wind. And to hear him sing that song now, 60 years after he wrote it, with all the life that's taken place, it's such a more resonant story than it was when he did it when he was 20, you know? And I wonder if you found anything like that in breaking this down. And I love this performance tonight. I hope you...
Thank you, T Bone.
Well, the first thing we learned was that we could have actually recorded our albums a lot more cheaply. That was a big insight. But then what was wonderful was I think the songs took on a different quality altogether when we changed the key so that Bono could use his voice in a totally different way. And he's one of the most long-suffering and patient singers, because he'll often be given a piece of music and have to find a melodic pathway through it. Sometimes, often, at the very top of his range. What was so lovely was to hear him sing these songs within his range. The singer he is now is the best he's ever been, but to hear him sing those, really, the tone was so inspiring.
Well, singing Pride was originally a little terrifying, because I was singing out of my skin. I was singing. I actually can't sing like that. And I know some people will think, no, you certainly can't. But I did. And I was singing. And the more I realized, I was 24, you were 23. Fairly macho Irish people singing In the Name of Love at the top of your voice with no embarrassment. That's cool. So I let myself off the shouting, but I do prefer to sing it. I think it was a downer tone.
Oh yeah, it was down quite a bit.
Thank you very much.
But it took on a different resonance.
Right. Yeah.
Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks for a beautiful night.
Thank you. Thank you, T Bone.
Thank you, T Bone.
Love and peace.
Man.
Ladies and gentlemen, our 2025 Woody Guthrie recipient, U2!